So War Tycoon just added in a brand new weapon, which is the AS-VAL, and today I'll be showing you guys its strengths and weaknesses, but I'll also be talking about how good this weapon overall is up there in the meta on the list. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. So I've seen quite a lot of people which are not very satisfied with the AS-VAL, and I'll be explaining just in a second. However, this weapon is actually much better than you think. It does have 27.9 damage and 650 fire rate, which by the way is a lot lower than what it is in real life. However, in terms of game balancing, they had to make it this way. In terms of recoil, this weapon is going to be having 10 and 15, and personally I will be recommending you guys to be using the aim point instead of the OKP, because it does actually lower the recoil by a little bit compared to this one, which only uppers the accuracy. And the reason why the people don't really like this weapon as much is because the VSS Vintoris actually has exactly the same stats. However, what they forget to talk about is the fact that the VSS Vintoris has exactly 10 less ammo, and it makes up for that with its sniper scope. Personally, I prefer capacity and have a weapon which is better in close range, but that's just me. Now the next thing which I'm showing you over here is the DPS on how good the weapons overall are in War Tycoon, and as you guys can see, the Chris Victor and FAL Heavy is definitely up there. However, in third place we have the AS-VAL, which does have 302 DPS, which is actually above our other meta weapons. However, the thing that's better about those is that mostly all of them will be having way less recoil. However, the thing with the recoil is that it doesn't actually matter in a good player's hands, because most of the time you're not going to be fighting opponents at long range, and that's when the recoil matters the most. In close range fights, it really won't matter. But yeah, big shout out to Nameless for actually making this list. I very much appreciate it. I will leave a link to him in the description. Now, taking a look on how good this weapon actually is in terms of its base damages. So in terms of its headshot damage, this weapon is going to be doing exactly 49 damage. To the body is going to be doing 28, which by the way is slightly rounded up. It actually does 27.9, and to the legs and hands it's going to be doing exactly 22. And a very fun fact which I also have for you guys is that the headshot damage is 75% increase, and limb damage is going to be a 20% decrease. This is also pretty much a metric that goes for every single weapon, so I just wanted to lay this out there for a lot of people which are wondering how the weapon system and its multipliers work. Anyway, this weapon overall feels very good in terms of its power. However, is it actually very practical, and how much is its recoil going to be dragging it down? So let's go ahead and also take a look at this while using attachments. As you guys can see, the recoil isn't actually super high, and if you guys do manage to control it pretty well, then you shouldn't have as much problems with aiming at your enemies, unless you're going to be jumping while using assault rifles, which personally I really do not recommend this, because it's just going to be making you miss a lot more. So personally I feel like the recoil of this weapon is very bearable. Now let's take a look at its vehicle damage, which is something that's also quite important. The FAL Heavy has a lot of things over weapons because it's just very good at taking down vehicles. However, will this weapon make up for that, and will it be just as good? But unfortunately enough, it will only be doing 8 damage to pretty much every single vehicle. As you guys can see, it's doing 8 damage to Superhind, which is a helicopter. Let me take a look on how much it's going to be doing against the ground vehicle. So for the sake of this, I'll also be spawning in the Boxer over here. Let me quickly go ahead and spawn it in, and as you guys can clearly see, it's also going to be doing exactly 8 damage. So in terms of vehicle combat, this isn't going to be super good. I believe that this weapon is overall going to be the third best in the game in terms of just being able to take care of players in close ranges. However, in terms of vehicle combat, much like most other assault rifles in the game, this won't be very good. However, overall, this is a great weapon, and I very much recommend you guys to get it. To anyone saying that this weapon isn't worth it, or you're just wrong and I just proved it in today's video. So yeah, anyway, for the time being, I'll see you guys next video. Have a great rest of the day, and thank you so much to my channel members, and do let me know if I should re-rank all the weapons in War Tycoon.